So, welcome. My name is Matthew Tomer. Today is August 18th, 2024. This interview is being conducted at the Gulf Coast Community Foundation at approximately 1:30. This oral history is part of the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Class of 2024, focused on local multi-generational business. So at this time, please state your name, the name of your business, and what services you provide.
My name is Kelly Caldwell. I'm president and CEO of Caldwell Trust Company. We're a 30-year-old trust company providing wealth management and trust services here in Sarasota. Mostly in Venice was our headquarters. We're in Sarasota downtown as well. And my family's been here since sixth grade. Actually into Sarasota probably when I was in fourth grade, but in Venice since sixth. And we've run many, many businesses, and I still have a sister and brother-in-law who run the businesses here in Venice.
What businesses are they, if you don't mind?
My sister runs Venice Pines Vet Clinic. She's a longtime veterinarian and out off Indian Hills Boulevard. And my brother-in-law, Jim, her husband, runs Keys Caldwell Property Management, which was my mother's business years ago. So my father and mother were both independent business owners here in Venice, and that's how we got here.
And what year was it approximately that you moved here?
Let's see, I moved here when I was in sixth grade, but probably fifth grade, which would have made me about 12. So that would have been in probably early 70s.
So, particularly to your business, when and how did your business begin?
Well, my father moved here because there was a bank in Venice called the First National Bank of Venice, and it was the dominant bank of Venice. And it was when there was such a thing as a local bank. And it was awesome. It was everywhere. Everything was First National Bank of Venice. It was right downtown. Merle Grazer, who became our mayor, was the president of the bank. And my father started working for him in the 70s. And that's what brought us here. Our company was Caldwell and Company before it was Caldwell Trust Company. And we worked as an outside money manager for First National Bank of Venice. Ultimately, we worked for other banks in the area, but not in Venice. So Venice was our home base and it was our largest client. And we worked there until First National Bank sold to SunTrust, which is today called Truist.
Fantastic. So, tell me about your background and how you came to move to Venice originally.
So my family is all from Ohio, as a lot of people are from this area and Midwest. And we ultimately moved to the Bahamas as a young child. Grew up, started school early in Nassau, and it was a British colony. And it was in the early 70s that the went independent. And so that's what got us out of the Bahamas, and we ultimately came to the Florida, and then ultimately to Sarasota before we ended up settling in Venice. So somewhere around fourth, fifth grade, I ended up going to Venice Elementary and graduated before going off to college at Georgia Tech. Got an engineering degree. Never expected to come home. It was a kind of a total fluke. Had deferred law school after my engineering degree and came home for a year to just take a break. And that's kind of how I got in the business. I said to my father, I said, "So, what exactly is it that you do?" And at the time, we were managing money for local banks, First National Bank being the largest client. And I started working with him in 1988, um, managing money. And then the bank mergers occurred. And that was the impetus for us starting Caldwell Trust Company, which was an independent trust company. Like I said, got our charter in 93. And today we're 30 years old and $2 billion.
What do you know? What about Venice made your father want to start his business here?
Well, we first came to Sarasota, so we were exposed to the Sarasota and have great ties to Sarasota. Love the Sarasota market. But my friends asked me today, especially the workers that spend time in Sarasota and Venice, there's only a few of us that really actually go to both places that have businesses. So we do have an office in downtown Sarasota as well as one here in Venice. But I will tell the people that I said, don't push it. I am a Venice boy first. And I have to tell you, the Venice High School has been one of the greatest experiences ever. There's still only one high school in Venice. And I think that is an absolute beautiful trait. I am very fortunate that I raised my children here. I have three boys. My wife and I have three boys. Two of them graduated, and the third one is a sophomore right now in Venice High and will graduate as well from Venice High School.
Do you think they will follow in your father's footsteps with the company?
Oh, I have no expectations that they would or could or should. That's to be decided. They're still pretty young. Some of them have interest in the business side of the business, being exposed the way they were. I never expected to be working with my father, so I don't expect or anticipate that they'll do that. But I do believe that what we started at Caldwell Trust Company will go on for generations. And while they may not work in it, the family is going to learn how to own it. One of the things that's unique about being in the trust business is the turnover. If you go back to what I said earlier about we were born out of the sale of a bank, a lot of people were with First National Bank of Venice, and none of the big banks made any headway into the city of Venice because it was First National Bank of Venice first. It was very small town, very connected, very tight knit, and it wasn't until the bank sold that there was even a thought of outside money managers coming to the area. So when I started Caldwell Trust Company with my father, it was obviously his shoulders that we were standing on. It was him starting it, but we really had no idea what it would grow to. But we did make a promise that we aren't for sale. We did make a promise that says if I'm in the business, and what's unique about just the money management business in the trust space is that we not only manage money, but we take care of generational families, meaning I'll take care of your children and your children's children. And so, therefore, the turnover of the bank mergers that have occurred that created us are actually detrimental to our industry. And so, one of the things we said 30 years ago when we started Caldwell Trust Company was, we're not for sale. And we made it so the Caldwell family does own and control it. And the idea is to be able to provide that continuity to our clients and to our employees that there's a place for you to come to that allows you to take care of clients, and that this company will take care of your children for generations to come. And so that's kind of the way we started it. So while I'm not sure my children will actually work in the business, I do want them to carry on the promises we made.
That's really amazing. That actually leads into one of the next questions. That story is now one of my favorite stories after hearing it. But what is one of your favorite stories from your business throughout your time with your father and
Just the mentors. I am very, very fortunate and very, very grateful for number one, the community. This is the best community to grow up. And you don't really know it when you're here. And I tell my kids all the time, you live in a bubble. This is one of the greatest bubbles of the world. To me, you're on the water. You're here in this tight knit community. You've got one high school. There's no division that is often the case in other places. And so you grow up here, and now as your kid's going off to college and they start to see the exposure, they may say, hey, that you are a little sheltered, but it's okay in my mind because this is where you grew up. You didn't have to have all the pressures of the large metropolitan areas, and you grew up in a really safe and sound place. And now you go off in the world and you can make decisions. I think that's one of the greatest stories. Like I said, I never expected to come home. I never in the wildest dreams did I ever think that I was going to be working here in Venice. And here I am raising my family here. My kids got to go to the same school. I swam for Venice High School. My three kids swim for Venice High School. To see the continuity and to see the other families that have stayed around and committed back to the community is really enjoyable. And I hope my kids they see it and sense it. Know whether they stay here or not, I have no idea, and I wouldn't put that pressure on them. But again, they at least know it's here. And most people don't understand what they actually have here until you come here and you see it, and you show up at a high school football game, and the entire town's there. You show up at a basketball game, the entire town's there. You go to the YMCA, the entire town is there. This is the greatest community for what I call community spirit that you I could imagine. Go to the service clubs. I'm a member of the Sertoma Club of Venice. You go to the service club, the entire town's there. Whether it's Rotary or Sertoma, pick your poison. There's multiple ones. But when you go there, they're all there and they're all there for the same purpose. Make this a better community. So I couldn't be happier that I was able to come back here and grateful that we were able to grow our business here.
Surely is something special about this town.
Yes.
You had mentioned about mentors. So, how would you describe yourself as a business leader?
I aspire to be as good as my mentors. One of my mentors was obviously my father, and I could spend an hour just talking about that. But the one that I will use other than my father that I think is impactful is the mentors that just being that attracted this community attracted this gentleman. His name was Jack Meyerhoff. And Jack Meyerhoff received a Pillar of the Community Award from the city of Venice. Moved here. He was the CFO for Brunswick Corporation years and years ago. And he came here and he was part of this community in a big way. He was involved everywhere. And my mother was involved everywhere. My father, probably less so, more working on his business craft than it was. But my mom was active in the Rotary Foundation. I think she was one of the first women Rotarians to be inducted. She was running her business, Keith Caldwell, which again still exists to this day. So I just think this is just a community that embraces people, whether you moved here today, tomorrow, or 20 years ago, they'll embrace you as long as you share the same values. And that's what's so neat about this. That high school and this community, they have a sense of values that resonates, that brings people here, and they come here and they're like, I'm home. Whether it's the downtown parades that you kind of, shake your head and go, it's a little corny, but you love them and you miss them and you want to be part of them when you're away. And the police tape that says this is reserved my tape for the um, my kids were in the parades for the high schools, and Sertoma had a bed race. We did the bed races. It's just a great community, and like I said, to be part of it, to see that old town, hometown that is reminiscent of, I would say, the smaller towns up north that we all came from, is replicated here.
That Christmas parade, second to none.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any business traditions?
Business traditions. Um, uh, I'll give one of my other mentors. He's a more Sarasota centric person. Was named Ron Foxworthy, and he passed away a couple years ago. We were literally in charter mode, which means we had just raised the money. We're a bank chartered in the state of Florida. We just raised the money to charter, and he said to us as one of our first clients, he said, "I know we're not even open yet, but I need you to give back to the community. I need you to be part of this one foundation called the Suncoast Foundation for the Handicap. We run those offshore boat races, and Caldwell should be one of the sponsors." And I looked at him and I said, "Ronnie, we're not even open. We have no revenue." He goes, "Don't worry about it. It'll be good for you." And he had enough leadership with Jack Meyerhoff and with my father that we went ahead and did it. And Ronnie was right. If you give back to the community, so our tradition is give back to the community. If you're going to be part of this community, give back to it. And so early on, I couldn't understand. It was a lot of money at the time for us. We had no revenue. It was a lot of money that was being asked of us. And yet we did it because it was the right thing. The community needed it, and we were supporting a good cause. We're still active today with the Suncoast Foundation for the Handicap. We raise money for the buildings that all of our charities that serve our children in this community are at. We have buildings in Northport, but we have a building right here on Bypass Park, where the Boys and Girls Club is there and Children's First is there now. Those buildings were built because of that foundation, not to mention the ones that are up in Sarasota. But that's the sense of community, which is give back to the community that allows you to prosper and be grateful for it. So we do that.
I think you've touched a lot on this next question. So, what makes Venice a unique place that your business thrives? Is there anything else that you think has contributed to the thriving, contributed to your business thriving in this community? Anything else unique?
I always think of Venice as a bubble, and I truly do because I think it's a little paradise. People haven't quite figured it out yet, and we have that blossom in the wintertime when everyone moves here and then they all leave. But the ones that are here year round, the community that's here year round, the people either moved here because you love that sense of community, or you moved here and you're retiring, but you're not done yet, and so they turn around and start giving back to the community. I just think that just being here of like-minded people is helpful, and whether it's us attracting people or attracting clients, people to work for us, but what you know, we'll talk about this, but people once they come here and experience it, they're like, "I really love this place, and I don't want to go somewhere else, and I don't want to drive to Tampa or Sarasota. I want to work right here." And so when they can find a company that's growing and prospering, and those there's more than just us. There's lots of companies that are prospering in the area. I mean, PGT is a great example of a hometown company that's done well, and you provide that for them. We have a massive IT department in our company. Try and get some technology people to move here that are from outside the area. But when they come here, they're like, "Oh, this is not a bad place to live." And so you have to convince them that they may not jump at that equation. But once you're there, once you're here and you look at it, you say, "This is a good place to live."
So, we're not lacking in any significant events, whether it be COVID, hurricanes. What significant events in Venice history do you remember, and how did those events impact your business?
The events. Well, we always have storms. So, we get to the point where the storms are predictable. You know them, we handle them. I jokingly, and I'm not being flippant here, I say if it's category 3 or below, okay, it's like a summer storm. 4, I'm paying attention. 5, I'm leaving. But we've built, that we've seen the city grow, the infrastructure get better and better and better, and you can survive these things pretty quickly. And again, as soon as you see a hurricane come through and the sense of community take over, whether it's down in Inglewood, whether it's Charlotte, whether it's your neighbor here, those are the events that define us. But the charities just jump right in and do it. The other thing that we happen to be sitting in the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. That was a fairly significant event in the city of Venice. The sale of a private or a public hospital to a private entity, which creates a foundation, that happened about the same time the Caldwell Trust Company was formed. And as you just look around, all the good that's come of that. And we did lose our hospital, obviously, but Sarasota Memorial is obviously now here. But by losing that hospital, we did gain this charity that has done so much good for the community. And so that is a significant event. But one of our dear friends, Dr. Murphy, was one of those founding that brought that hospital here. And we got to know Dr. Murphy over time, and you hear the history of that. And again, it's that same philosophy that he had years and years and years before we got here, which is this is a bubble, this is a community, this is where I want to grow. And by the way, we need a hospital. So let's open a hospital. If we need it, we'll do it.
So, talking about that community, we're going to go into culture a little. How's your business, your company contributed to the culture of this?
I have to say that the industry, my industry, has done a little bit of disservice, and I'm using the banking world. The mergers of the banks are pretty disruptive. Now, I will say it in the sense that it used to be that there was a bank president. Merle Grazer was First National Bank of Venice. And if you were doing something in the city of Venice and you knew Merle, you would go talk to him. And the bank president was actually empowered. He was a pillar of the community. And I think that the one thing that we have tried to do is even though the bank mergers have occurred and they've dispersed those leaders, those pillars of the community that all small time banks used to be the, you go talk to the president. We're still a place you can come and you can come talk to us and we will point you in the right direction. We don't sell anything. We just provide service for a fee. So I can't sell you anything, but we've now provided 30 years plus of continuity in the financial space to our clients. And I think that's not only clients, but friends, people that we aren't necessarily going to have as clients, but we'll help them. And that's just because it's neighborly to do. It's the right thing to do. So if a friend of mine says, "Hey, would you help, Bob or Mary?" The answer is sure, we'd do it. Well, why do you do that? Because it's the right thing to do. And that's Venice. It's the right thing to do. Go do it. So we keep doing it.
That continuity of culture is like an underpinning of holding up that. It's the base that that culture is built. So that's a very interesting. I like that. That's interesting. I didn't think of it like that. What are you proudest of?
Well, my family. I mean, I'm sorry, everything's gonna pale compared to my family. I am so, so lucky, to have grown up here. I'm very grateful to have grown up here, but my family made it all possible. I mean, I stand on my parents' shoulders, there's no doubt. My mom was a titan, not business titan in the sense, but she was a community. She was out there volunteering everywhere. I call it my ever ready bunny. She went and went and went and went, and she was always doing well. And there's plenty of the ladies that were involved, with 30 years ago, which less they were less involved, and she was out there first and doing it. Obviously, my dad, just I learned so much from him, how to run a business. And again, the expectation is the same expectation he had with me, I have with my children, which is, look, you're going to end up running and owning this company. Like I said, I don't expect my kids to have to run it, but I do expect them to own it. But my expectation for my children is the same as my dad's, which is okay, take what we've given you and do better. Okay, you don't rest on your laurels. We're never done. You're never going to be complete. So how do you make it better? And then do the things that are right. Do things that are great for the community. So can we show them those things? Can we they grew up here, so I'm hoping they learn the same things that I learned by growing up here.
So staying on the theme of not resting on your laurels and continuing it on, where do you see your business headed in the next 10 years? And what are some big decisions you may have to make?
Well, I would say that, we're approaching 2 billion in assets under management. I remember the first 100 million we had, and I was boggled and humbled by 100 million. Today, 200 billion, 2 billion, I'm sorry, is just a number. We will continue to grow. We'll be 3 billion, we'll be on. What's going to happen over the next years is we will ultimately grow. We grew into Sarasota, city of, we have an office downtown Sarasota. We'll grow into other cities. We're being pulled over to the East Coast to provide trust services. We're doing that with some people now. We'll be more dispersed across the state, um, but we're not going to change who we are. We're not going to change the values that came from Venice that we had embedded in us. We're going to continue to provide service to clients in the same way that we do it, regardless of where they're at. But I think we'll just continue to get bigger and expand geographically.
Asked, when did you join the Venice Chamber of Commerce? Please state the year or how many years you've been a member for.
Well, that was easy because we got our charter in '93, so that's when we joined the chamber. Um, I do know my mom was a member of chamber long before that, and so I wouldn't hazard a guess at when that was, and I'm sure our predecessor company was a member of the chamber. But like I said, we joined in '93, and it's a I won't say it's a given. It's just it's expectation. It's your part of the community, whether that's the Venice community or the Sarasota County community. You need to be a part of it and give back.
So staying on the chamber, how has it impacted your company?
Well, I to some degree, it's the representation of the business community to the city of Venice, and I think that's important that it does that. And now, with current leader Kathy is also expanding, and she's becoming more of a leader in the county. City of Venice is a powerhouse, and it can't be ignored. That North County South County split. Well, she's getting way more active in the county-wide issues because whatever happens in the county also affects the city of Venice. So it's important that she does that. So I'm pleased that she's doing that and the chamber's doing that.
think you touched on this, but I'll ask it, see if there's anything you want to expand upon. What was the deciding factor that made you join the chamber?
I I didn't have a choice. I was told by our leaders that we're joining the chamber because to give back to the community, you have to be part of it. So it wasn't really a choice, and we've been a member ever since.
So with your business, how do you and your business want to be remembered? How do you want you and your business to be remembered?
Wow, I hadn't thought about that one. How do I want to be remembered? Hmm. Well, I would say that we followed our values. We lived our values, and that my kids do what I'm trying to do, which is uphold my dad's promises. That's what I learned about the business. My job was, yes, we're going to grow the company and provide services, but really my job was to provide the promises, keep the promises that my dad made. And I hope my children will continue to do that, and the company will continue to do that.
So speaking of your father and then your children, if you could pass on one piece of advice or wisdom for future generations in Venice, what would it be?
That's a hard one because I have too many things to say on that subject. Keep your promises, do the right thing. You could spend eternity talking about those things, but keep your promises. Whatever you say you're going to do, do.
I like it. So at this point, this is concludes our interview. We thank you for your time and
Mhm.
everything that you've talked about. Is there anything that I didn't ask that we should know or that you'd like to tell us?
There's a ton of families here, not just Caldwell. There's a ton of families. I know you're interviewing them all, but they've all contributed and they're all part of that community. So I think it's the whole family essence. And when you see other parts of the family, other families bring their children back, I think that's a great sign for the future of Venice. And I'm glad to see it. And I hope again, it's always a hope as a parent that the child will be here. But I like to see it because I think it provides the continuity that we need.
I think just from what we've heard today, the children coming back is a theme, and then them becoming other pillars of the community has been a surprise to the people we've been interviewing, and they couldn't have wrote a better script in
Exactly.
their words. So hopefully your children
Sure.
fall right in those paths or whatever they do. It seems like as long as they're happy and healthy,
I'll be happy.
you'll be happy. Well,
Yep.
anything else that
Did you ever do the Leadership Venice program yourself?
I did not do Leadership Venice. I did Leadership Florida.
Oh, cool. You want to touch on that at all a little bit, just as how it's built up leadership skills for
Yeah,
you?
let me have a napkin or
Yeah,
something
of
real quick
course.
because it got hot on me here real
All
quick.
right, understood.
But Leadership Florida is a phenomenal. I don't know if Leadership Venice and I know Leadership Sarasota has one.
Yes.
Um, but Leadership Florida is an extension of it, and it is definitely worthwhile doing. So I'll explain it. I don't. You guys will edit it the way you want. Make it useful.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, no, I did not do Leadership Venice or Sarasota. I did. I was fortunate to be selected to be part of Leadership Florida, and I know it's a similar program. But what I thought was really unique about Leadership Florida was how they were trying to get the leaders of Florida together in classes, and so the classes were typically about 55 people, and from all over the state and from all over the diversity. So whether it was for profit, not for profit, business, municipalities, um, all of the different groups of people. But if you were a leader, the idea was that you would get to know each other. So it was a year-long program, not just a shorter program. You actually went every other month. You would spend a long weekend, 3 or 4 days, together as your group, and you'd bond over the course of the entire year. And the purpose of this, and I think this is a great statement, the purpose of it was that no matter what happens, if you're a leader in your community and you get to know the other leaders in the community, when there are difficult subjects, and there will be to deal with, you'll at least be civil. You'll at least know each other and you'll be able to talk to each other and not have this bickering. And whether you talk about this on a local stage or whether you talk about a statewide, or you can look at it the national stage, when you see these kinds of disagreements, we can disagree over a policy, but we should not be disagreeing over that you're a good person and your attempt is right. Now, we may win one time and you win another time, depending on which side of the battle you're on. The idea is that you'll at least have that conversation. So, Leadership Florida was about doing it at the state level. And if you've ever spent any time in Tallahassee, you know they need that. They need the congenial approach. They need to be friends with each other first so that you can deal with the tougher issues. And that's going to continue to be. So hopefully we'll continue to develop, the chamber will, and the chambers. I say Sarasota has their leadership in Sarasota as well, with this, and then dovetail into the statewide, because we need to build the leaders that will continue to say Venice is my home, Sarasota is my county, Florida is my state, and we're going to have a great state. And I think that's, if we can do that, we'll build a much better community, not only in our little community, but also across the state.
Fantastic.
All right.
Last question that I do have is, have you or Caldwell Trust sponsored or participated in any events, specific events or programs through the Venice Chamber of Commerce? And why, and how did that turn out?
I know we've done them. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I tell you, one area that I did push with the chamber at the time was, there's a group called COBA, Coalition of Business Alliances, and the whole point of that is similar to the leadership training, which is, do you know the other leaders of the other organizations that are business related? And so COBA, it has the chambers from the Northport, Inglewood, Sarasota, Venice together, along with the other building groups and some other business alliance groups. Lakewood Ranch is one of them. Come together and they meet on a monthly basis. So the CEOs, executive directors, come together, and I've been pushing that as part of the Venice Chamber for a while, because when Venice gets isolated, it gets bypassed. And so Kathy has done a great job of participating, elevating the ideas of Venice and the values of Venice in the community. Because when the county commission decides what's going to happen, um, whatever happens at the county level is going to impact us. And so Venice has to step forward and put forward. And given that the way they are electing county commissioners today, it's so important because we only get to elect one. But yet there's five that make decisions on us. So three of them are going to make a decision. And if our one that we elected doesn't get have say on that subject, we're going to lose out. So it does require the business communities to be stand together in the county, and I'm very supportive of that. And I know Kathy's done a great job at that. I've seen it.